Hey everybody, Dominic Siciliano here, season 1, episode 9 of What's the Benefit podcast. But this is the second in our installment of the Living the Dream series. And I'm excited as heck to be joined by William Cason, who's the president of the Cason Group. Many of you who listen to our podcast, follow us and do business with us know that we have an affiliate agreement with the Cason Group. They're an important partner of us. Many people would wonder why a general agent in Michigan would partner with another general agency from the Southeast United States, especially one who does some of the same work we do. Why would you bring, in essence, a competitor into our state? But really what we want to discuss today, and hopefully it becomes a motivational podcast for you, is doing business with the mindset of abundance, and really creating partnerships and sharing and finding what is best, that your niche and what you do best, and having the courage to allow folks to maybe come alongside who do some things better. And that's what the essence of our relationship is. But William is a very special guy. He's someone who's been a very important part of my life. We became friends a while ago, and just he was very generous, and just literally by kind of opening his doors to us at Benefit Profiles as we were growing. He invited me down when we had 3 or 4 employees. He literally handed us his agreements that he uses for Ben Admin. But we had no business relationship at the time. We were simply just friends. And he's remained, I consider him a close friend, but we are business partners. And I believe William, his father, and his colleagues at the Cason Group have a very unique take on business. And he's going to share that with you today. And that's what this Living the Dream portion is all about. It's about, listening to folks who have had a ton of success, as the Cason Group has, but what their philosophy is in that success and how they do things. That's what this is about. So without further ado, welcome, William. Everyone, I want to introduce, as I said in the intro, William Cason, the president of the Cason Group. William and I have known each other a long time now. I would say 12 years ago is where we met on a companion life leaders trip. But over the course of time, we became we were blessed to go on those trips year after year for the first 5 or 6 years. And our wives hit it off and became friends. And so I just really appreciate you joining today. I'm excited to talk about the topic today, which is going to be the abundance mindset in business and in partnerships. And, I told the audience in our introduction why I believe you're perfect for this. Obviously, we have a partnership. So before we get going on that, do you mind telling the audience about, the folks in Michigan? Some folks know you, some don't. Just kind of your story, tell them about the Cason Group, and then we'll talk about our partnership, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It has been a blessing this dozen years now, knowing each other, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm with the Cason Group, and our home office is Columbia, South Carolina. We've been in business for 33 years and some change now. My father started the business. He was a Guardian Group rep. Got crossways with his boss at the time, and the Lord called him quickly out of the Guardian, and that's where this started. I started here in 2003 after a 1 year of selling insurance just out of college, and have been here ever since. So now 21 years here.
It started out in sales in kind of major way, but you became the president. The one thing that was immediately unique about our friendship is, I think when I first met you, Benefit Profiles had just started. We had, I think, 2 or 3 employees, and you had just become president at a pretty young age.
I was 30 when you
were 30 years old. Yeah. How long had you been there at that point?
That was 2011. I had been here for 8 years. It was actually on my 8th anniversary, which was also it was the 20th anniversary of the company and my 8th anniversary.
How many employees were there, just roughly, when you took over as president?
About 60, I would say.
Oh, wow. I guess I never knew that. And can you just tell the audience, we are a little different in our general agents. We at BPI, as we all know, we're a group general agency. We do, primarily that quoting, selling, hustling. We'll go do groups as small as 2 all the way up, and Ben Admin will go a little higher. But there's things that you guys do. You do all of that in your core markets, but you also do more, including the life insurance side. So talk a little bit about that and what you all were doing at that time, because I think we were pretty similar at that time. But
when I started in 2003, we were a primarily South Carolina, some North Carolina, small group GA. So most of our business was under 50, probably 85% of our revenue, I would bet 80 to 85 was group medical, and probably 80% of that was one particular carrier, a local HMO in South Carolina. So,
wow. Yeah.
So today 65% of our revenue ballpark is group benefits. About 12 to 15 is individual medical, and then 20 to 25, somewhere in there, is financial services.
Financial services.
Individual life disability.
Was financial services going on when you were made president?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I actually started as a sales rep in 2003. In 2005, we piloted financial service, life insurance brokerage with one carrier. And in 2006, I stopped doing group primarily and started doing nothing but life insurance. So I did that for 3 years and then led sales on both sides for 2 years and then became the president.
So I feel like you becoming the president at that age is obviously a testament to you. And for those who want to listen, there's a great podcast. The Cason Group has their own podcast too. And you interview your father, who, you came to work for. I think it's actually one thing that what I really admire about the Cason Group, and the reason why we are partners and we became friends, is the way you all run your company, the culture. I feel like culturally, the fact that he made a 30-year-old guy, I mean, obviously it's a huge testament to you and who you are, but I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So do you mind talking about who he was at your founder, Louis, and, how he set that culture?
Yeah. So I want to make sure that it's clear that he still is.
Yeah, that's correct. He still is young. That's right. I always, yes.
And he still is who he was. He's an interesting study. You hear about family businesses. Most of the time, the father is not willing to relinquish control, particularly to his sons. Most founders have a hard time releasing control to anyone. Yeah. But I mean, from day one, he's driven, but he's also very humble. He just doesn't. He's not I wouldn't call him overtly humble, but he just doesn't. He's just matter of fact and black and white, and it's not about him. And yeah, he allowed me to move into the role at 30 years old. Into one of the things that he has always done for me and my 2 brothers is allowed us to make mistakes. And it hasn't been like I'm going to let you make this mistake and learn the lesson. It's more like, hey, you're an adult, make a call. Like, let's just make a decision and go. And he professionally did that as well. He let me make decisions, do things my way. We're hardwired similar in a lot of ways and also different in many ways. And he let me be me, which he deserves all the credit in that, because it's very, very rare, as you talk to people, and I'm sure you do too, who run agencies or just family businesses in general. It's just extremely rare that the generation older relinquishes control easily.
Yeah, and I think although I was running a much smaller GA, I had very similar situation where I was given the reins and go ahead, at a very young age too. So that's where our bedrock of our friendship started, where you were just very helpful. We would see each other. He said, hey, this is what's going on. But for the most part, we were just buddies. And as we grew, started talking more and more business. So bringing up who our partnership is today, it's a journey. Many people who are listening to this today know that Benefit Profiles is affiliated with the Cason Group. It started with Medicare and individual because the Benefit Profiles is a general agent that does group benefits. We're not in that Medicare and individual side. So 2 years ago, for the audience, I called Wlliam and said, I'd really like to do business with you. Why? I had met Wlliam. I had met some of his colleagues that he works with. And I just was like, man, there's something here. It was just a gut feeling. And we started, it jumped kind of in the Medicare and individual side. Wlliam came up. It was for those Wlliams from South Carolina. He came up in November. It was super, super cold. You might remember that.
I do remember that.
Yeah. And we kind of inked a deal, and it was really successful. I think you would agree with that. That success led to us talking last year, like, how do we increase this? Again, there's some things that Benefit Profiles does not do upmarket, and one of those is enrollment solutions. So one-on-one enrollment, planning an enrollment, either face-to-face or via call center. We don't have that service. Also, Ben Admin, there was times when we would just kind of get redlined and I would kind of flip deals over to Wlliam's team, and then really upmarket. Now you have Plan Source, which is a different benefit admin system. It has an enormous group of professionals who manage that. So those things, we kind of came to an agreement last year. It was an affiliate agreement, and allowed us to, I think, serve the agent community even better. Where we couldn't fill, Wlliam's team definitely did. And now we're kind of landed on this place where we have this giant white space, I believe, where it works incredibly well. When we started out, I had colleagues, friends, et cetera, like, why would you do this? Why would you bring in what one would consider a competitor into your market, right? So it was a really interesting journey between two people who are buddies, but also I think we're wired similarly, the same, right? Yeah. And I want to talk about that because I was at a sales, for the audience, Wlliam is always generous enough to invite me to his internal sales meetings. And you did a whole hour-long session on partnering with people internally at the Cason Group and having the courage to do that. So the talk today for everybody in the call is, I want to say that having the courage to take that leap to join kind of forces, even in the face of like, why would you do that? And kind of these internal fears, has been very positive. And we'll talk about why, but what's your take on how all that went down and what, where we landed, where we are today, at least?
Yeah. I mean, I think actually, as I recall, the start of it was you coming down here and just visiting our office.
Right.
Just to learn, which I've been fortunate enough to do that with other folks to just go visit and see how they do business.
That's how it started. I totally forgot about that. That's where I met Brian and yeah.
And then, hey, you said, hey, y'all are doing some stuff that we're not doing. And I think both of us, as we walked through it, we knew we trusted each other. That if there's not a bedrock or a foundation of trust, then it's hard to have a really successful relationship in general, probably, but also business relationship. So I think that there was a foundation of trust, and then as the relationship grew, I think both of us, I know myself, relinquished, let go of things have to go the way I say they have to go. And I see the end of where this is headed. And I think both of us agreed that, well, part of our 10-year plan that we launched now, it was about 2 years ago. I finished my sabbatical into the summer, midsummer 2 years ago. And we came back with 3 things: a growth plan to be a bigger light, and then a plan to be the best place to work for our target people and be the best at everything that we do. And embracing the best, trying to be the best at everything that we do, there's a freedom almost in saying, hey, we want to be the best at this. You can't be the best at everything. And me and you have talked about this a good
lot.
bit. And
Yeah.
if we truly are the best, then we actually don't have to be fearful of who we let in and where we let in. And we talked about this yesterday, but the Michigan market is ginormous. So is South Carolina. I mean, it's
Yeah.
small. This market's much smaller than Michigan. Michigan's about the size of, maybe slightly larger than Georgia. But it's a huge marketplace. And if we together had 10% of the marketplace, we would be huge. There's so much to go get. Let's go get what we're great at. And I think we embrace that together.
Yeah, and along the way of that, though, there's that natural. This is what I want salespeople to feel. There's a pretty natural fear.
Yeah.
I mean, let's take it to yours internally at Cason Group. You encourage your reps to work together. Younger reps, older reps, more experienced reps, right? Or just can you give examples of that?
Yeah. Do you mind if I go off on the abundance mentality?
Yes.
We had our 30th anniversary, and my dad gave a speech, and it kind of impromptu. It was sort of a, hey, speak for a second. And he spoke through the 30 years that he has been involved at the Cason Group, and he used 3 particular Bible verses. The first one, when he was starting up, was it was Jeremiah 29:11, I believe it is, which is, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, to make you great, and to move you forward, essentially. It was a time of, he had just been fired, he's starting a new job, and the Lord's calling of, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Midway through, so late 90s, early 2000s, the company was bigger than, and had become more than he had expected it to be. It was 15, 20 employees, and it had become a going concern. And
he did not have plans for that
no,
when he started.
Not at all. He's trying to feed his family. I mean, and no, not at all. And he embraced the verse. The verse says, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your paths straight. And then as he handed the reins over, and I'm quoting him, Ephesians 3:20, I believe it is, which is, and now to him who is able to do exceeding abundantly beyond all that we could ask or think. That's where the abundance mentality comes from, is God's able to do more than we would ever ask or think. And he said, I had to sort of release control. I didn't have it anyway. And the Lord had already at this point provided way more than he had expected. And there's a freedom in a mindset of, Lord, this is not mine anyway. It's yours.
This is exactly, all right. So everyone knows this is exactly what what we want to work on right here. You didn't say it, but when he started, he was pretty freaked out. I mean, he's a different personality than me, like,
Yeah, you can hear it in his podcast, but he had 3 kids. Yeah. I was 11, I think, at the time, 10. So 10, 12, and 8 were his 3 sons, wife. He didn't have a job. That's scary.
And he started GA.
He didn't have it's not like there was a bunch of money in the account or whatever.
Right.
He had a little bit of money, but not a ton.
And I think it's a natural human tendency to look toward negativity. I don't care who you are, man. I'm a pretty positive guy. I think you are as well. It's pretty natural.
Yeah. No question. And you asked about salespeople particularly, and all of us are this. When you get 2 or 3 steps removed from a particular situation, it's easy to sort of be more objective. But when you're as all of us are at certain times, we are emotionally wound. But one of the things that we've really been trying to ask our sales team to embrace is let's do first of all what we as a company are best at. Let's if we're not the best, just say we're not the best at this. Go to somewhere else that is. Because we want to win what we are the best at, because we're going to provide the best experience then. And the same's true even at a step down level for our sales folks. a salesperson can't be the best for every different scenario. So I just mentioned we have 3 different divisions: group benefits, financial services, individual medical. We have different salespeople for each division. There was a time
And different,
true.
and in group benefits, William, you have 2 kind of things you do there.
Correct.
3 or 4. So enrollment, ben admin, small group ancillary, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so
2005, when I started here, or when I was in sales, I sold group benefits, individual medical, individual life insurance. At some point, we break those out. And yeah, inside of group benefits, as we've grown, even there needs to be specialization inside of that. Folks that are focused on the larger case market, gentlemen and ladies that are focused in the smaller case market. And one of the things that we do a lot of work with Reagan Consulting, and in the consulting work that they have done, growth and profitability go up when specialization goes up.
Okay.
This is inside retail agencies. The more specialized you are, the more opportunity you have to be the best at something. And interestingly, and maybe not surprisingly, it drives better than market growth and better than market profits.
And probably because people are doing right where they need to be, confident, experts, comes through when they're presenting.
I think so. Yeah.
If you translate that, do you find that your sales, can we give an example of, obviously our example is from the outside, here I am, general agency in Michigan, 14 employees. Here's Cason Group, 200 plus employees. And here we are, this partnership, which is actually highly benefit profiles. I've learned a ton. We've done we've done joint work on quoting systems. You all have helped us with expanding our relationships with our agents already. We've learned a lot about how you all do ben admin. You've literally given us a playbook for ben admin, and we've taken a lot of that. Like, you've literally handed it to us, so it could be construed from your side like we are teaching this GA how we do things. You know what I mean? Like, all that negative. But if you pivot and say, but what have we gained from it? And we, benefit profiles, I believe, has gained from having a united front in the marketplace. I think it gives us a sense of deeper professionalism. And, now these guys have some horses in the stable if we need them, and vice versa for you all. Like, people didn't know of the Cason Group as much in Michigan. And then, so it's been good.
Yeah.
So that's our example at our level, overcoming that fear and enjoying the kind of the good things that came out of that. At your sales folks level, are they resistant? So if they say, hey, Mr. Salesperson, we want you to bring this young person in or this other person in you might be a better fit. Is that sometimes get tricky, or is that pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tricky. We had a particular example pops into my head, and I hope this broker he knows who he is. We had a broker who was been doing business with us for a dozen years at least, recruited by one of our top salespeople.
Okay.
Great relationship, personal relationship, that over time, for one reason or another, they just didn't work extremely well together. But this broker had a really big case that he ended up placing, his life insurance case, ended up placing it. But there was friction the whole time. And there's
just natural human friction.
Yeah. And I wish that this call had happened faster, but I'm also proud that it did happen, that our seasoned rep on our side eventually called the broker and said, look, I'm not the best person to serve you here. There's another person here who would serve you better. And he had not called him previously, in part because there was potential business to be had, but in part because there was a personal relationship there. And you didn't want to give up on that, and a business relationship there. Fast forward 8 months now, and this broker, I had breakfast with him 2 weeks ago, and he said, my relationship with y'all has never been better because I've got somebody now who really is serving me. And a lot of the art behind our more seasoned person was really positive. He wanted to serve this person, but it just wasn't working. And sometimes that happens because life situations change. Sometimes it happens because the solution that you as a broker, for example, would be providing has grown past the client segment that you have. Probably one of the best agencies in the Southeast that I have worked with in my career had a concept of downshifting, and it was ingrained in the agency that every producer would push down the bottom 20% of their book of business to someone down below them so that they could be freed up to go win the bigger business. But if the whole company's doing it, well, everybody's giving, but pretty much everybody, maybe everybody except the very high top person is also receiving. And so and that top person hopefully has the ability to go be freed up and go build in that top 20% as opposed to the bottom.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And if we take that to the agent retail model, to piggyback on what you're talking about, when we talk to benefits agents, I'll ask them, you're in a big agency, how much cross-selling are you all doing? And sometimes there's agents doing a lot of it, and other times there's people are kind of holding on, like, that's my good account. I don't know if I want to bring in a benefits professional or vice versa,
Man, you've been doing this a while too, but how many P&C agencies have tried to launch a benefits agency only to see it fail because there's no confidence in the new benefits producer for cross-selling?
There you go. Right. So what is, taking it back to, the Cason Group, very unabashed, you guys run your company based on Christian biblical values. I would think that, I'm not answering for you, but in those times when you get a little tight or you want to clutch, I mean, your go-to is Bible verses, I would think. No? Or is it like friendships, all of the above?
If I'd say you hear about servant leadership, that is a biblical principle for sure, but it's also effective in the marketplace. If we're leading for the benefit of the people that we're serving, then when we ask people to give folks up, we're not asking them to give folks up we're asking them to do that because we believe it's the best thing for the individual to continue to grow.
And the client.
Yeah, and the client for sure, yes.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of folks here who want to be great and want to win. You do too, I know. You don't want to go do things and your people don't want to do things that we're really not that good at. Sometimes we're trying something new and we have to learn that we're not that good at it. But when you know you're not that good, and when your people know you're not that good, it's frustrating to continue to do that. It's actually freeing when you allow yourself to go, this isn't where I'm the best. Now, in our city,
Man, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the example we had was a year and a half ago. Connor Beatty is a person we work with. He's your rep, Wlliam. He does a lot of ben admin and, enrollment, larger stuff. We had one of our best agents, honestly, he's one of our best agents, called. He had a huge case. It was 1,000 lives. For an agency like mine, it's a really big deal, but he called in November and he needed something done in a week and a half, create a full ben admin solution, and needed to be up and running in a week and a half. And, what our value is, and you've said this, is one of the things that's awesome about BPI is we're nimble and flexible. But at that time of the year, we knew we were not going to do a good job. And Connor, and you've not been specific, but you have a lot of horses in the stable, and Connor was able to get that thing running and going in a week and a half. It was unreal. And so what happened? Now the agent, who again is a great relationship for BPI, saw even more value by us. I think that's what you're pointing out, right, Wlliam?
Yeah. One of the fun things in working with you has been the recognition of that y'all have an awesome niche. Y'all have an awesome lane, and you need to apologize to no one for what your value proposition is and how y'all are very, I think, boutique and nimble, and that is valuable. That's extremely valuable, and it's a gift. And you don't have to apologize or be fearful of any competitor. Not that you're arrogant about that, but y'all are great.
Well, now, especially with you guys,
Well, I hope
right?
that's true too. Yes.
That's cool though. Like, so when we go to a larger agency and we say we are nimble and flexible, and some agencies, quite frankly, are like, well, they're too little. They're from Grand Rapids. Well, great. Here's Connor. He's an, you know what I mean? Like,
Although I have to be honest, Columbia is not that bigger, much bigger than our. Actually,
I know exactly.
But
so I guess what I want folks to take away from this podcast is this philosophy of business. And one thing I've always been, and I believe our cultures are very similar. My culture was started by my parents, yours by your father, and they're very similar. Serve first cultures, employees, clients, carriers, right? I mean, that's what we're about.
Yeah.
We come at it a little different, but we come at, literally, but we have the same spirit, I believe. But I've always been attracted by that abundance mindset. And you mentioned the servant leadership. At your darkest times, I'm going to ask you this again in a different way. Like where do you go personally, Wlliam? This is for the folks, because pretty successful. You're a very humble guy, but very successful career, right? I mean, you've had some tough times. Do you lean in on people, silent study, faith, wife, like the tough times?
I mean, the core of everything is my faith.
Yeah.
And even for this company, if you listen to our purpose statement, it is that we exist to provide a platform for employees here, for people to serve, to be challenged, and to be a light in the marketplace. Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me personally, I believe that there's a God who created the world, and he's set the world in motion, and he's built us in his image, all of us. And we all have ingrained fears and sin since the fall of man. And I believe there's a Savior for us. And I do believe in the scriptures and the truth in them, and try very poorly much of the time to live by those. But yeah, it all comes back to that. If you work here, you'll hear this a lot. We want to have an impact on every person who works here, professionally, personally, and spiritually. That's the goal. And the hope is to have eternal impact ultimately, because this place, the Cason Group, me, we're going to pass away. We're looking at rewriting some corporate documents yesterday, and the attorney who I was speaking to said, I can tell you this, you will not own this forever. No one will, because eventually somebody else owns it because they buy it, or you give it, or you die. Yeah. But you ain't gonna own it forever. So yeah, I mean, for me, it does ultimately come back to the eternal perspective, and how do we have eternal impact?
Yeah, and I believe that I'm fumbling over my words, but I feel like that's where you and I have connected as well.
For sure.
And it's been cool, really, really cool. And for the audience, and I would just encourage it. It's been okay for a smaller, we're not small as we were, which is a blessing, but smaller organization to become buddies with a bigger organization. It's pretty unique, but I think it's based on, like you said, Wlliam, mutual trust. We have an agreement.
Absolutely.
But it's about as good as the people who shook hands on it, quite frankly. It's fine. We did I want everyone to know, we did all the right stuff. We did.
Yeah.
We had made agreements. We have guardrails. We talk a lot.
The attorney who wrote up our agreement told me 6 years ago, never sign a contract with somebody you don't trust. If you're trying to build a legal document to build trust, you got it wrong.
You're absolutely right.
I think good fences don't make good neighbors. I think good neighbors make good neighbors. Good fences make good neighbors stay good neighbors. So yeah, we have a document in place, but there's a level of trust. And I'll tell you that the business relationship's been fun and it's been a blessing, but way more of a blessing than that has been the personal relationship.
Yeah.
And even particularly the spiritual connection that we've been able to have over the last 3 years. That's what will remain for me.
For sure. And I want people to know when you're considering partnering, I would encourage you to have the courage to do it. You got to find the right person, which I think obviously we found the right two organizations. It's not like you're doing this across the market, but you are doing more of, each little GA that you talk to, because you guys are kind of in that space now where you're branching out and thinking about acquisitions and working with people like us. Each one's a little different, isn't it? It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. Similar in that they're all unique, and we're all unique, by the way. It's not this day. You said to me a couple of times, there are certain things y'all got to do it your way because it's your way.
Yeah.
And some of those you're saying they do it, and some of those you're like, we want to keep doing it our way.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. Appropriate. I also think that the blessing of this partnership has been that we've had candid conversation in love.
Yeah.
And also candid. Very
candid. And that just happened again where we just kind of revised some things but it's time after the other, you putting your money where your mouth is, of saying, hey, we want to respect you. We believe there's a ton of business. We can do it together. And if, there's certain people who don't work with benefit profiles a lot, then great. I hope Cason Group does great. And you said, hey, for agents who love BPI, you tell us when you want to bring us in. And it's very respectful relationship. So when it comes to, I think ultimately landing the plane on all of this is if the audience can get a sense of, you can have the courage to do it. And for me, it was a big, big leap, Wlliam. I don't know if it was for you, but it was for me. And I feel very rewarded that we did it. It's been positive on a business perspective and on a personal perspective. If anybody, wants to learn more about the Cason Group, about our partnership, certainly reach out to me. We'll get connected to the representatives from the Cason Group in Michigan, both on the individual side and the group side. Is there anything we left out that we wanted to cover?
Not from my perspective. Have there been moments of fear? Maybe. I tell you that about 2 years ago, I feel like I, at least, and maybe we, embraced the journey in general, but maybe specifically with you. And once that happened, at least for me, the fear and it probably wasn't as much fear for me as much as it was desire for control.
Fear for me, desire for control for you.
Those were the two pieces. And when I relinquished a level of that, it's actually made the journey and the fun and allowed for some fluidity to it as well.
Yeah, I could go on, but that is it. And so if you think about it, if you're in an agency and you're concerned about maybe, well, what if I bring in this senior rep to help me sell this case? Well, I'm not going to have as much money and all those things. If your gut is leading you in that way, I say do it personally.
I agree. It's just more fun doing stuff with other people too.
And you don't know what's behind that other side. Again, the abundance mindset leads to more abundance, leads to more abundance. And that's actually that goes back to what those three passages you mentioned. I mean, you've told me before, you guys run your business on biblical principles because you believe, but also because they make a lot of sense from a business perspective.
If God really did create the world, and he set the rules, then following his rules does make some sort of objective sense too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my man, thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you soon.
Same to you.
Maybe back here in Michigan someday. We'll see.
Sounds good. I think we got the crew coming up in July. So
yes, sir.